Welcome to Saturday's Warrior. Today we are going to be running through our Week 12 picks as well as a review of Week 11, our picks that we made, as well as some of our thoughts and reflections on the BYU game. But right now we are waiting for Adam to join us. He's running just a little late, which is just fine. If you're new to the channel, we talk a lot BYU, Big 12, realignment, all of that good stuff. So please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps a lot. We are approaching 700 subscribers, which is a huge benchmark for us to help us get there and hopefully eventually to 1,000 subscribers is the big benchmark that we'd really like to hit. But yeah, so I see we got someone with us already, and please, as we're going along making our picks, please let us know in the comments who you'd like to, who you think is going to win the matchups this weekend. There's going to be some good ones, and definitely a lot on at stake for a lot of these teams as they kind of jockey for position in conference races as well as potentially the playoff. So real quick, as we look at this, I just discovered this as I was going on to look and see, look at some of the rankings on ESPN, and there's this the college playoff predictor, and it's really no secret. It's kind of whittled down to realistically, these are the only teams that really have a shot, and even some of them like OU and Louisville would need a lot to go in their favor to make it. But I played around with this a little bit, but kind of interesting. But nonetheless, so let's quickly review what happened last week in our picks. These were the picks that we made, Adam and me, and here were our Big 12 matchups. Neither one of us did super well. He had more faith in BYU this last week, and he's hadn't been wrong on BYU yet this year. But unfortunately, I got that one right. And sorry, here, let me throw a comment up. We got UC Fez. Hopefully I'm saying that right. It says, as a BYU fan, if you could have one out of conference rivalry every year, would you pick Utah State or Boise State? Utah State has more history, and it doesn't really feel like a rivalry. It's kind of a one-sided rivalry, but it's fun. So I'd say in-state are always really good, but the rivalry with Boise State over the last several years has been really entertaining and very competitive. Boise State's not exactly where they have been, which is disappointing. They just fired their coach, and we'll see where the program keeps going. So it's hard to say. I kind of inclined to say Boise State just because of how fun and intense that rivalry has been over the last decade plus. But I don't know. The history with Utah State and being in-state is probably the right answer there. But yeah, good question. How about any other of the you're obviously a UCF fan. Any fans of any of the other 4 Big 12 members this year? What potential rivalries do you see forming, and who would you like to see a rivalry with the most? That's something that I've been interested in watching develop as this new conference continues to take form. But yeah, so I think the big surprise in our Week 11 picks were obviously UCF shocking Oklahoma State, but that was one that Adam and I think made a big case for UCF, but neither one of us had the guts to go with it. And Oklahoma State coming off of the big win of Bedlam, and UCF getting John Rice Plumlee back, kind of pulling together and really a better team than what the record would suggest. And so that one, and then the elements played a role in it as well. And I really regret that one because Adams really got me beat here on these picks, and that was my chance to kind of pick a wild card game last week, and I didn't do it, and I should have. But all the other ones, I think we can live with. Then in the top 25 picks here, I pulled away. Well, no, I guess we tied there. I got Michigan, but then I went with Tennessee. I had Missouri, but then I switched to Tennessee again just to try to pick up an extra win against Adam, and it backfired. So, um, alas, we are at the here's our total for the year so far, and I made up a tiny bit of ground this last week on him, but really I don't see. And really, I need a week 13 in there. But I don't know how I'm going to make up 7 games over the next couple weeks. So I might have to just start making some crazy picks here and see what sticks. So because he's definitely got the healthy lead on me this week. So all right, so let's switch over and I'll wait till Adam hops on before we start. I'll quickly review the BYU game from last week, but um, and some of our thoughts and feedback on that. But we the game this week, and I'll be interested to hear what he has to say. I think with Oklahoma and BYU, I'm surprised it even gives BYU a 5.8% chance of winning this game. So it will. It is going to be interesting. We thought that BYU was going to. We knew they'd be an underdog going into this game at the beginning of the year, and we knew that Oklahoma was going to be good. But we felt like there was a real chance it was going to be a night game. This was going to be at home at end of the year, and BYU sometimes can rally and pull off these surprise upsets over some of these bigger teams. We've done it several times, including once over Oklahoma, and I just don't see it happening this year. I think it's going to be a tough one for the Cougars. So unfortunately, because they need that one last game to become bowl eligible, and unfortunately they end the season with these two pretty tough matchups, and felt like last week against Iowa State was a must-have, and they really didn't come through. So with another blowout, and with the way Oklahoma's been putting up points, I don't see how BYU is when their defense, allowing teams like West Virginia and Iowa State, and that's no slight to them, but just not necessarily teams with big, major offensive prowess there, put up major points on them. So I just imagine a team like Oklahoma that's been doing it all year against a lot of different teams is probably going to have its way. So we will see if Adam feels any differently when he hops on, but I'm guessing not. So we got Oklahoma there, and then so we have Cincy at West Virginia. Cincy had a nice win over Houston, another newcomer. It was at Houston last week, but I just don't think it's enough. I think they're still, the team is still figuring a lot out, and West Virginia, even though they got steamrolled by Oklahoma last week, they are. The game will be at home, and I think they'll be able to handle business against lesser competition. But we will see. They were shocked by Houston, but that game was in Houston, had a little something on the line with their history with the coach and everything. So I've got another comment here. It says, out of the next 4 coming into the conference, I'm really hoping we can start something with Arizona State. We can call it the best looking female student body rivalry or something. LOL. That I'm not sure I want to touch that one, but I think there's a lot of opportunity to form new rivalries with these new schools. And I don't remember how frequently UCF and Arizona State are playing. I'm guessing probably just twice over the next 4 seasons. So, and then a follow up to that. But in all seriousness, I really think UCF and Arizona State have a lot in common athletically and institutionally wise. I could see some of that. Both are really big schools, both in and I'm not sure in terms of what types of programs and how they match up academically. I'd be interested to look into that. But I think kind of the perception you think of really big kind of party schools, and so if that's what you're alluding to, so that could be fun. I think that'll be really interesting. And my favorite thing is seeing these rivalries form organically, like with Utah and Colorado, because they were the two new ones and closest together out of the in the Pac-12, that they were kind of forced together in this rivalry, and it never really turned into anything. It was really lopsided. So um, yeah, you just love these organic ones, which even though Arizona and Florida are not close together at all, it would be it'd be cool to see something like that and see these rivalries that just I mean it tends to help being close geographically because there tend to be more alumni close together, and that's where the fan bases interact. But sometimes it's just the way if you have several close games going down to the wire that get chippy, something happens, it can quickly turn into a fun rivalry, and you got to love seeing that happen. And this is one, Cincy and West Virginia. You'd think they do have some history in the Big East, and they're pretty close, definitely closer than anybody else that West Virginia's had in conference. I'm not sure how much their recruiting footprints overlap, but I'd have to imagine a fair amount. So I could see this turning into a rivalry, and I think that's what the Big 12 is banking on. But when I talk to, and from what I've seen on Twitter and things, West Virginia and Cincy fans, I haven't seen so much. They're kind of like, yeah, we'll see. And I was surprised by that because, so actually, that's one thing I'm really excited to see with this game, to see, what happens with it, and see if it starts laying the groundwork for a budding rivalry between the two schools. So that being said, I still feel like West Virginia is coming out with that one. Um, and then we have Baylor at TCU, and this is a good one. A rivalry which was just renamed, and everything I've seen is nobody's really happy with the new name. What is the Blue Bonnet battle or something? And instead of the revivalry, which was not the official name of the rivalry, but it was one that everyone had adopted and was pretty great. I've also seen altercation, as in an altar. So a little play on words there, the two religious institutions. So feel like there's so many ways that could have gone with it, and with and again, the name, just like the rivalries that happen organically, you got to let the name happen organically. It has to have some meaning. I know they found the meaning in I read the description. It was something about there's a lot of, I don't remember if it's the state flower or if it's just a really common flower in both the where the schools reside. And so, and there's some other things that I just felt very contrived. So I don't think that I don't know, fans aren't happy about it. You can't really force it. It's really got to be something that happens organically and has meaning behind the rivalry. And so, just slapping any name on it, I don't think is fun. And I know because like the Holy War, which is also an unofficial name, I don't think the schools officially refer to it as that, but some people want to get rid of that name for whatever reason, but it's just been the name for a long time. It's a great rivalry. That's how people know it. So I think that's a bit silly as well. As far as I know, everyone I know of is still calling it the Holy War. Back to the game. I, you know, this really could go either way. I would have to lean TCU, being at home, and even though Baylor's shown flashes this year and being able to put some things together, I still think TCU is the better team. And so that's the way I'm leaning, but I also have to think strategically at this point. So if Adam goes with TCU, I might just switch to Baylor just to increase my odds there of picking up the win. All right. And then we have Oklahoma State at Houston, and this is another one that uh, could, I think, become another fun potential rivalry. But I don't think we're going to see much of that this year. It is at Houston, and they've surprised us so far. And Houston, or OSU's coming off of quite an embarrassing loss, and I think that's going to really motivate them to get things back together. I mean, they have a real shot to still make the conference championship game, but they've got to win out, and they don't have tough games here to finish off the season, but they've got to pull back together after that embarrassing loss. And based on what we've seen from them, other than last week, since the Kansas State game, I really think they're going to be a very tough out. So I'd be very surprised if Houston pulls it off, but they're giving them a 34% chance of pulling off the win. So there's a chance. And so now we get to UCF at Texas Tech. So this one is interesting because both of them had victories over ranked teams last week, and that's the thing about the Big 12 is we finally get some teams with some recognition moving up in the rankings, and then they both lose in the same week, which does not help the conference in its image and really getting a lot of teams highly ranked. But boy, it makes the conference very entertaining, which again is one of the selling points. We know that was why we're able to get the contract, the TV contract that we did. So this was another one that I was kind of holding off because I think it's close enough. I could see this going either way. Texas Tech has been hot and cold all season. Just when you think they went toe to toe with Oregon, and then they've had some other confounding losses, and some of it's been due to health and other things. But I do think they're probably, when they're playing well, I don't know, because UCF, they have a lot of losses, but they were competitive in a lot of them. Like their record, I don't think is reflective of how they are as a team, especially when healthy. And they might be going in with a lot of confidence to Texas Tech after that last game and pull it off. But this is one of my strategic ones. Again, you look here, ESPN also has it as a relatively close game. I might hold off and see if I knew Adam would be running late. Schedules are what they are, but I thought he would, if he doesn't make it before we sign off, then I'll go ahead and make those picks. So I'll go back to those. So Kansas State at Kansas. This is going to be very interesting. If it sounds like Bean is going to be back and should be healthy. I don't know if he's 100% or what, but they say he's looking healthy. And if he is, then that's obviously a big plus for Kansas, because without him, I don't think they really stand much of a chance. With him, I think it's still a tall task. It helps that obviously the game's in Lawrence, and Kansas, their offense has been great, but Kansas State has obviously played very well defensively as well as offensively, and has had a very solid attack, starting with the run, opening up the pass, and really being able to get those big chunk plays here. In just a second, I got Adam letting him on, and thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, good to be on. Sorry, I'm a little late to the party today, but
No problem.
excited
It
to talk through
happens.
this.
No, yeah, absolutely. So I guess we can backtrack. I made it up through Kansas State and Kansas, and was about to talk about my pick there, but let's take a step back. And I don't want to rehash all these games too much, but let you
No, I'll be quick on my picks tonight.
put in some 2 cents. First, we were really backtracking, but I don't think there's too much more to be said about BYU after this game last week, but curious to hear your biggest takeaways from it.
Yeah, really, really sad to see. It is just teams out of sorts. They're struggling on a lot of different levels. I still think the primary challenge is the offensive line. Um, but yeah, it's tough to watch your team underperform on so many different levels like that. Great guys out there, and just tough to watch them struggle. I'm not optimistic for the rest of the season after this game. This was our game to see if we could catch that sixth victory and go bowling. I worry about these last two games against some great teams, and the way we're playing, it just doesn't look good for us. So disappointed to see, but you know what? It's our first year in the Big 12. We'll reload and hopefully come at it a little bit better next year. But I see us stumbling towards the finish line at this point.
Yeah, my frustration with it is, so I mean, I've said this before. I picked BYU to go to win 5 games through the season, and so it looks like that's what they're on pace for. And so nothing, you can't be too disappointed. That's what was expected of the team. It's their first year. It's very usual to have those difficulties to do much better once you're playing a Power Five schedule. But the disappointing part is how they've played and getting blown out in all these games, especially by teams that are not known for putting up a lot of points. And so
Yeah,
when every
yeah.
team is having their best game against you, you know, it says
Yep.
something. 'Cause I thought we would lose a lot. I thought we'd be more like UCF, where they're losing some games, but boy, they're in some of these, and they're making some of these better teams sweat a little bit and being
Yeah.
feisty, and they have a chance to pull out a win here or there that maybe they weren't expected to. And so I thought that was going to be more the makeup of our team, and it's just not.
Well, it's interesting because that's who we were the first half of the season. Is exactly that. We probably won some games that we shouldn't have won, right? We were opportunistic was the word everybody wanted to use over and over, and certainly had the ball bounce our way a little bit, but we didn't fall apart. Even against Kansas, I thought Kansas was a good game, and I thought that would kind of be the model we could follow. But it feels like we're regressing throughout the season, and that's tough to watch.
It really is tough, and some of that's probably injury, and so that's the depth aspect of it, of being in a Power Five conference, because that's been something about BYU is for years and years. Our starters have been able to compete with starters, on most teams, but it's the depth that's really hurt us, and obviously that's showing here as we get deeper into the season. But I look at this. What do you think they should do if Slovis is healthy this week? What do you think they should do at QB? Because I think about it, like Slovis has gotten some shade this year, and I don't know if it's all on him. Because I think back to like last year, would I have if we had Slovis on the team last year? Would I have rather played an injured Jaron Hall in like that Notre Dame game or Keaton Slovis? And I think Slovis would have given us a better chance to
Oh,
win
absolutely,
in that game.
absolutely,
So
and
I don't.
I,
So I still am not necessarily completely out on him.
No, I'm not either, and I feel bad that we haven't really been able to showcase what he can do. I think as a pocket passer with time, he's pretty good. I don't know that he's quite at the level of Zach Wilson or Jaron Hall, but he's a very good quarterback. I hope he gets a shot at the next level, and I wish we could have showcased his skills a little bit better this year because I don't think the offensive struggles are on him. He is a different style. You can see Retzlaff can move a little bit, right? And the running QB adds a wrinkle in the Roderick offense that I think he needs. And so I think as he's looking forward to recruit quarterbacks, I think you got to have that mobile element to it more so than Slovis does. But that's more the nature of the offense than it is Slovis. I think Slovis is a great quarterback if he's healthy. I give him the rock. See if we can't pull up an upset in one of these last 2 games. I think he gives us the best shot to do that.
Yeah, maybe you put in Retzloff for a series here or there, just to give him a different look and the mobility aspect of it. But yeah, it should. I mean, either way, it's going to be tough this week. Speaking of which, so I
Yeah.
went through. I'll just let you know. No surprise, I picked Oklahoma to win this game. If we're letting teams like Iowa State almost put up 50 on us, what do you think a team like Oklahoma that averages? I don't have it in front of me, but averages a lot of points.
Yeah. 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 It's going to be a lot of points. They're going to find the end zone a lot, unfortunately, at Lavelle Edwards Stadium. Um, and I think by halftime, you'll see them develop a sizable lead, primarily because of their offense. Oklahoma's defense is good, certainly good enough to stop our offense. And so I don't see us moving the ball a ton. I'd love to see, a spirited game from us where we just kind of, maybe Oklahoma comes out flat and looks past us and we can steal one. I just don't see it happening. The way BYU's played in the last couple games is sort of this bellwether for how we're going to finish the season, and I think Oklahoma wins this running away.
Yeah, and they still, even though it's pretty slight, still have playoff aspirations. They need a lot of things to go their way for that to really happen. And even then, I don't know how realistic, but their solution is win out and win out big, and that's all they can
Yep.
keep doing. And right
Yep.
now, I mean, there's a lot of scenarios that could happen with even the conference championship. But if they're able to make it back and play what will most likely be Texas and beat Texas again, after having some big wins. So yeah, I think they're motivated. I was hoping for a team
For
that would
sure.
be a middling Oklahoma team by this point in the year that maybe had less to play
I
for.
that's where I had Oklahoma. I didn't think Venables could do it. I didn't think he was the guy that could really return them to prominence. I thought they'd struggle and do a little bit better than last year. We'd have a shot in this game. I had them pegged early on as kind of an upset win in this game, but man, Oklahoma looks the part and we don't. So yeah, I think Oklahoma wins this one comfortably.
You want to know the good news? We still own the series, even if we lose this week. So
Hey, just like Texas.
that's right. So, all right. So how about Cincy at West Virginia? This one was.
Yeah.
I have a pick, but I'm also kind of waiting to see what you do because let me switch back real quick. I'll show you what the outcome is. We won't rehash everything, but I made up a little bit of ground. I lost a little because I switched a pick to Tennessee just to try to.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Just to oppose you and try to pick up another one, but I got a lot of ground to make up. So
You had a good week. That was good.
so,
Yeah, I'm going with West Virginia in this one. I watch them with my own eyes at home. I see what West Virginia does. I've seen what Cincinnati can do. West Virginia is still motivated, and Cincy just isn't quite there. I don't think they can. I don't think they can move the ball enough on that defense. And I think West Virginia's run game in particular is going to have a field day against Cincinnati. And I think West Virginia wins this one comfortably.
yeah, so I was this is something I was kind of talking about earlier. We had UC Fez on, and we're talking a little bit about rivalries in the new Big 12, and I was looking at this one as obviously the conference wants this to become a rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like to force rivalries. These teams do have some history from the Big East. They're obviously relatively close geographically, certainly closer than anyone else the West Virginia has ever had in this conference.
Yeah.
You would think it, but all the responses I get from fans that I've spoken to or seen online seem kind of tepid on it. So I'm really interested to see if this game can become competitive, that you can start seeing some signs of a rivalry forming, because that would be a lot of fun.
It would be a lot of fun for these schools. I agree.
Sorry, and you said West Virginia's coming out.
West Virginia. Yep.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe going Cincy, but I'm going to stick with West Virginia on this one. I was hoping you'd go the other way. You still can.
I can. Good.
What do you make of the Blue Bonnet Battle or whatever it is?
Does it have a name? I got to get familiar with these Big 12 rivalries.
Yeah. The rivalry is what everyone's called it, but they just announced a new official. The two schools came out with an official renaming of the rivalry as the Blue Bonnet Battle of the Blue Bonnet State something.
Okay. All right.
So the response has been less than warm.
I can imagine. I'm actually looking at this matchup more for the future. I think Baylor TCU, when Oklahoma and Texas leave, I think Baylor and TCU have a shot at taking that top spot. I think you got Kansas State and Oklahoma State that will vie for some. Certainly hope BYU's in the mix eventually. But these are two of the more traditional powerhouses in the Big 12 over the last 10 to 15 years. And I look at this as being a great rivalry into the future. So I hope it develops that. This weekend it will not be. TCU has got a lot of frustration to get out, and Baylor's a team to do that against this year. And so I think TCU is going to take it to them. And Baylor, especially at TCU, is not going to have enough firepower to hang in this game.
Oh, I know. I've tried to talk myself into Baylor. I was going to see if you're going to hang with Grimes again, as you have earlier in the season. And
I tried. He let me down too much. I like Grimes, but man, I lost a lot of points on Baylor.
I like Grimes too. So yeah, I think you make solid points, and I've been trying to talk myself into Baylor in anticipation of you picking TCU so that I could pick up another surprise win, and it could happen. But I just can't do it. I have some other picks where we'll get into where I'll do it. So
yeah.
I'm also going TCU. So, okay, Oklahoma State at Houston.
So this is, I mean, 2 weeks ago, it would have been Oklahoma State hands down. What in the world happened at UCF? I don't know. It was a rainy day. Strange things happen when you travel to Florida, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what the reasoning is behind that. Um, but that was a demoralizing loss. I'm going to say Oklahoma State stumbles in another game. I'm going to go with Houston. They've had some fight in them. They've been close in a couple games. And if Oklahoma State had lost on a last second field goal, as opposed to getting absolutely demoralized in that game, I'd feel a little differently. Maybe they could have a bounce back game. But I feel like Oklahoma State's going to sleepwalk through this one and still be dazed and confused at what happened, and possibly remove them from a chance at a conference championship game. So I'm going with Houston in this one.
Yeah, it stinks because their season. I can't remember who do they play the final week. I think it's still. If I remember right, I feel like it's a winnable game. Oh, it's BYU.
You're talking Oklahoma State?
Yeah,
Yeah,
never mind. Yeah, it's
yeah.
BYU. It is a
Oh,
winnable
it's a
game.
winnable game. Yes, it's a.
But to end the season on 3 of the new 4 schools, and and really be in their driver's seat of their own destiny to make it to the conference championship game, and to go get just completely demolished the way they did is shocking. However, we did make a case. Neither one of us picked Oklahoma State, but we did make a case for UCF being able to pull out a win after the letdown, or not the letdown, but the come down after winning Bedlam. But
Yeah.
I did not see it happening that way. I still think Oklahoma State is going to be able to regroup and win this. They've just looked so good, other than last week, which was, I would say, an anomaly. They've just looked so good, and I think Houston could shock. They've played well at moments, and they've had a lot of highs and a lot of lows. But I think the Cowboys get this one. Okay, speaking of UCF, and this is another really good one. Both teams coming off of a surprise kind of upset victory last week.
Yeah, yeah. This is classic Big 12 madness. You just have no idea what's going to happen, because is Texas Tech the team that played at BYU and struggled, or are they a team that pulled out a shocking upset last week? I feel like I really like Texas Tech's quarterback. He's young. He's very, very talented. And because of that, I'm going to go with the Red Raiders in this one. It's a toss-up because UCF looked so good against such good competition last week. But just like Oklahoma State had the letdown after the Bedlam win, I'm picking UCF to have a bit of a letdown when they travel on the road to Texas Tech, and Texas Tech pulls this out.
Yeah, yeah. That's exactly the same thought process I went through as I've looked at this a couple times and gone back and forth on my picks. And you're picking Texas Tech, and that's the way I'd probably lean. But because it's close enough, I feel good about UCF saying, hey, you know what, we're rolling. We figured some things out. We've got Plumlee back, and we're playing well. And so they're going to go in with a lot of confidence, and I think they win. And by the way, this matchup, I don't know if it's a rivalry or not, but the rivalry of the beveled logos, man, it's not a look I'm a fan of at all. If they both, like, Texas Tech has
Neither am I.
back, if UCF were to do the same kind of thing, I think they'd be very solid logos. I'm also not a fan of serifs on the logo, but nonetheless, just get rid of the bevel. It'd be much better.
I think Texas Tech is committed to those bevels. I mean, they may be the most beveled logo in college football, and they own it.
Even just saying the word bevel just upsets me. So, okay, so a great rivalry in the Sunflower State. So
Yeah.
and both well, actually, and I didn't see it what the college football playoff rankings were, but they dropped out of the other polls. It could have been a ranked matchup, but still a very solid team nonetheless. Bean is coming back, is what I've heard, and that he's supposed to be healthy, which obviously changes that quite a bit. So what do you make of it?
Yeah, tough one to pick. Really tough one to pick because of the fluid quarterback situation. If Kansas can figure out their quarterback situation, I get their pick right every week. I'd always know if they're going to win. But but they I feel bad for them because they're this close to a really special season, and it felt like last year was the same way. And they just can't keep that quarterback role healthy enough to pull out these victories. I'm going to go with Kansas State because I really like that, even though it's on the road. And I certainly think Kansas has a good shot, especially with Bean coming back. He's proven himself to be a gamer back there, a tough QB. But Kansas State has something figured out. I like the two-headed monster at quarterback. I like the experience they have there, and along with the talent they put in there with Avery, I like Kansas State in this one.
Yeah, me too. I think Kansas has a very good offense, but I think Kansas State has the better defense of the two, and obviously a solid offense in their own right. I'm not sure. I think with their run game, as well as the ability to pick up some big yards, I think Kansas State is going to take this one, but it would not surprise me to see it go the other way. I don't know if Kansas gets enough love there.
That's a bad predictor in my opinion. This is closer to 55-45 than 80-20.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so what's crazy here is that Iowa State controls their own destiny.
They do. They do. They've played themselves into a position where they control their own destiny. They're going to come out motivated at home against the Longhorns. I think this is going to be a great game, actually. I know Texas is heavily favored. I think it's going to be really close. If Texas didn't have Quinn Ewers, I think I would lean towards the Cyclones. But with Quinn Ewers back, I'm taking the Longhorns on the road. They want it. They've still got their eye on a potential playoff appearance. They certainly want to win the Big 12 in their last season here, so they're highly motivated. And I think they're playing now with a lot more confidence with Quinn Ewers back there. I worry about their future at QB if they don't go with Manning because I don't think Murphy looked the part. I think you got to hand the ball over to Manning next year, but they're fortunate to have Ewers back there now.
I'll give them a little bit of a grace period, but yeah, they certainly have options there. But yeah, I think both teams coming out highly motivated. Iowa State, we saw what happened to West Virginia, or a lot of these teams actually, after coming off of TCU, all these teams coming off of big wins over BYU, feeling pretty good about themselves. And Iowa State might be drinking some of its own Kool-Aid, saying, look, we can put up points now. It's not going to be that way against their defensive line and just talent across the board. So I think it's going to be completely different. It is going to be a completely different opponent for Iowa State. And I think they can make this game interesting. Texas has been in a lot of close games this year, but I think, again, to me, that's almost more of a credit to them because of their ability to pull out those wins and do what they have to win. So I agree. I think the Longhorns take this one. So that's it for Big 12. So now we got three top 25 matchups, this weekend. First in the Pac-12 with Utah going to Arizona.
Yeah, this one's tough to predict because Utah looks stronger and stronger as the season goes on. What a great game at Washington. They really looked the part there. Arizona has been a surprise this year, but have gone toe-to-toe with a lot of teams and have played very, very well. They're going to be scary next year coming into the Big 12. I think we've got them on the schedule next year, and that was one I was hoping would we'd have one in the bag. And boy, Arizona looks good. They're building a program there. So that being said, I think Utah captures this. It's more about where they're at in the season. Arizona coming off a thrilling victory at Colorado. Utah coming off that loss against Washington. But Utah just impresses me more and more as the season goes on. As a BYU fan, I don't like to say it. I wish they were struggling more, and we wouldn't be in a situation where I've got to heap so much praise on them. But the product on the field is really good. Great defense. They figured out their offense. It was much maligned earlier in the season, and I think it's enough to take down an upstart Arizona team at Arizona.
Yeah, it certainly is, and this is a very solid matchup. Like you said about Arizona, everyone was saying they were on the they were an up and coming team. I think they're still, what they've done this year is probably still a year ahead of what they were expecting.
Sure.
Which is great for them going into the Big 12. This is going to be a tough one. I think both teams have shown up well and played competitively. And I just think Arizona has been a little bit more consistent. Utah, they have figured out their offense a little bit more, and it does make them dangerous if they can be just good enough at offense because their defense is that good. But Arizona has been able to adapt to a lot of different types of opponents, playing different types of games, high scoring, low scoring. And I think that win over Oregon State is just very impressive to me, because that's a very solid team. So I am going to stick with the Wildcats on this one. Hey,
Okay.
have fun rooting for Utah.
Ugh.
All right. So the rest of the SEC is taking the week off in preparation for rivalry week, but here we got a decent matchup. So does Tennessee stand a chance? It's at home.
So that's about the only thing that's going to go in Tennessee's favor is being at home. I like Tennessee, but they've seemed to have taken a step back from last year's team. I take last year's team with Hooker at quarterback, and when they were really rolling through the middle of the season, I think Tennessee could have pulled this out, but not this year. Georgia's too good. They've really hit their stride, and I don't think you want to get in in the way of that buzzsaw right now. Georgia's moving, and they'll beat Tennessee in this one.
Yeah, I agree. It's too bad. We were really thinking, I think, at the beginning of the season that this was going to be a potential matchup of two teams vying for the SEC East, and unfortunately, it's not. I'd love to see some new blood. Not that I mean, Tennessee's a traditional kind of powerhouse, but they've been down for so long that it'd be fun to see some new blood in there and competing and for the conference. But yeah, I think Georgia's too good. They've definitely figured things out. Maybe if this were at the beginning of the season, but Georgia's got this one. Okay, so how about Washington at Oregon State?
This is
Back to
going to
the
be a
back.
good one, and I'll tell you, after all the praise I've heaped on Washington the last couple of weeks, they just barely squeak by with some of those victories. Um, this one's tough. I'm going to stick with Washington because I've ridden them all season long and just heaped praise on them. Thought they were great, but boy, this is a trap game. Oregon State's good. They're sneaky good. I know they may not be quite as high as their ranking suggested through parts of the season, or quite as good as that ranking suggested. But they're a good team. That's a solid team, and it's at Oregon State. So Washington's going to have their hands full. I think it's going to be another close game, but because Washington has done so many of these close games, they're tough as nails when it comes to the end of that fourth quarter, and I think they'll pull it out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of what I was saying about Texas too, right? Is, not every game is a blowout, but it shows that while they've been a little pedestrian in some of these games that shouldn't be that close ever since that Oregon win, they've kind of had this come down a little bit, but the fact that they keep pulling it off is very impressive and shows that they know how to gut out wins when they have to, not just when they're, more talented than the opponent. Having said that, the game is in Corvallis. Oregon State is a good team. Yes, they have 2 losses, but respectable losses, and still have some very solid wins. And their defense is solid, but also, I mean, this is a team that can score too. And so I could see this game kind of going either way, really, with these two teams. I could see it being a grinded out, but I'm guessing more likely it's going to be a little bit more high scoring. And I think either way, I think Oregon State is going to keep this competitive, and I'm going to say that they pull off a major upset.
Ooh,
And
big pick.
yeah, and really one of America's teams right now is they're getting left behind in the pack, and this their way of kind of making a last stand in the conference and keeping things competitive there. So I think they can pull it off. So we will see
All
though.
right.
Either way, it's my game of the week. It should be a really good one.
Yeah. Yeah,
Really
that'll be a
fun.
great game.
So anyway, well, I know things are busy, and that's how things go. But and you're a little late, but appreciate you hopping on and joining us as always.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
And looking at this, we only have differ on 4 games this week, so I can make up some ground, but I need everything to go
Okay.
my way this week, and then do it again next week, and I can still pull it off for the season. And then we'll have a chance during bowl season to
Yeah. Yeah,
mix
we
it
got a
up.
lot we got a lot of picks to make during bowl season.
So many picks. How many bowls are there now? Anyway, so many that BYU may not even need 6 wins to make it to a bowl game.
It's
But
possible.
that is a topic for another day. So, all right, thanks, Adam. We'll see you next week.
All right, go Cougs.
All right, go Cougs.